Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 238 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the Second Amendment podcast that is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight is the most important voice of the Second Amendment world, Erin Paulette. I upgraded you. You know what? We're not there yet, but we are there. But I'm making a foregone conclusion. How you doing, Erin?
I'm exhausted. Whew. So on Wednesday, I flew out to Utah for reasons which I'll get into in a moment. And I was out there for 3 days, and then I flew back. And I've had this day to mostly catch up. And fortunately, I haven't been wrecked like I have been some days. But Thursday is when you and I go to Texas. So between those two trips, man, the first week of March, I'm just going to be wrecked. Just wring me out like a towel. So, yeah. If I start to get loopy, it's because the jet lag and everything else is caught up to me. I'm trying so hard not to get sick. Not that I feel sick, but it just,
Travel.
Travel, plus also Utah in the winter. It seemed like everyone had some sort of a cold, and they're all coughing and sneezing, and it's just like, okay, I'm not afraid of getting sick. I just don't want to get sick right before the Texas trip. So I'm chugging the vitamin C, and I take the probiotics. My mom is really into supplements. It's just like, okay, give me everything you have for my immune system. Beta-glucans, sure. Sambuca, sure. It's just, I am popping pills and chugging liquids, and it's just, I've just got to get it to hold together for 1 week, and then I can fall apart.
Wait, you're drinking Sambuca as a curative?
Okay. I see the confusion, and it's because I am terrible with remembering names. There is an alcoholic drink, which is probably Sambuca, but Sambucus is, I guess, like Latin for elderberry or blackcurrant or whatever. And I always get the two confused, because I'm guessing Sambuca has some sort of blackberry, elderberry, blackcurrant, whatever flavoring.
It's black licorice, but I just looked it up, and it is elderberry.
Okay, so yeah, mom believes in that, and so I'm drinking like the elderberry extract, and it's not bad, to be honest. So I'm trying to keep it together for a week, and then because next month I hit a certain machine gun caliber, and if I'm gonna fall apart for that birthday, it seems thematically appropriate. When you hit the age that's synonymous with the Browning machine gun. So I bet you want to know about why I was in Utah.
I mean, I think everybody wants to know why were you in the lovely land of John Moses Browning, the maker of the Browning machine gun.
Peace be upon him. So, in November of last year, my friend and professional acquaintance / coworker, Chris Chang, sent me an email, and he said that he met a really interesting person at the USCCA Expo, and that Chris is participating in a documentary that this person is making, and he basically was playing matchmaker. He talked up to this guy whose name is James Sacamano, who works for Jeff Hayes Films. And so Chris put me in touch and said, I think you should get in touch with these guys because, I'm involved in this documentary. And he seemed interested, and you should do it. And so I contacted James, and he told me, and I'm stalling a bit as I pull up the email because I got a whole bunch of different things here. So I contacted James, And I'm just going to paraphrase parts of our various email exchanges for the next 3 months. And he said, so here at Jeff Hayes Films, and there's a link to that in the show notes, we create a wide variety of documentary series. We often look for topics that are being censored in mainstream media. Firearms in this country is definitely one of those topics. We want to show the diversity in the gun community. Talk about how often a gun is used to stop crime in this country, what the Second Amendment really means, and the many varied perspectives around gun ownership. Truly, I believe showing the incredible diversity in the community is a key place to start the conversation. The American gun owner is everyone, and the right to self-defense belongs to everyone. And then he goes on to say that his preference is to conduct interviews in person in their studio located in Salt Lake City, Utah. We, of course, would handle all travel and accommodation needs. And that's the part that really got me, because I've said before, I have poor self-image, I have imposter syndrome. If it hadn't been for the fact that Chris Chang played matchmaker, I would go, this guy's putting me on. Even with Chris speaking for him, I was like, no one wants to fly. It's like $1,000 to fly me there. Why would they want to do that when we could just interview over Skype or something? I'm being punked. This is Sacha Baron Cohen all over again. So I'm just gonna go with, I have friends who know people and have access to certain databases, and I asked them to perform a due diligence on this company and just look into it. Do these people exist? I mean, it looks like they're real, but I don't know. I could be easily fooled. And they looked into it and said, no, seems legit. This is an actual company. And so I go, okay.
To be fair, Sacha Baron Cohen also would form actual companies and create actual backlogs. Like there were some people that interviewed that interviewed where I actually did get Sacha Baron Cohen coming in and tried to punk them, and it was one of those no, they did a really good job.
So anyway, I just came to the conclusion that this is a case of my imposter syndrome being a little bitch, and I need to remember what Weer'd tells me, that I am a big deal.
You are a big deal.
And thank you. And so I made arrangements to fly out. And I made arrangements so that my time in Utah would overlap with a certain science fiction symposium with which I have history, and I'm not going to get into it here because it doesn't matter here. But the point was, friends who come in from out of town or out of state to attend the symposium could then potentially meet me for dinner because they'd be in town. And so it was a case of, I can turn a business trip into a mini vacation. Woohoo! So that's why I was out there for a significant amount of time. You don't need to hear about that other than, I saw my friends, I had a great time, I'm happy to see them. So I'm making arrangements with James Sacamano, and one of the questions that's asked to me is if I wanted hair and makeup services. Because if so, they would need to book those stylists, artists, technicians, whatever the proper term is, and I would need to show up an hour and a half early, and I would need to tell them whether it was going to be full makeup and hair or just a touch-up. Now, I've never had that offer made before because I've never really been in anything like this. I mean, the closest I can come to having been on national TV is a couple of episodes of Cam & Company, which I'm not knocking, but that was not the full studio appearance. And so when they made me that offer, it took about half a millisecond before my brain went, oh, hell yes, because, well, I want to look my best. I have insecurities about how I look. I'm going to be on camera, and if someone is offering for free to make me look my best on camera, oh, hell yes, I'm going to do that. So I booked the hair and makeup, and I did ask for a touch-up because I'm not going to walk in there with a naked face for reasons which, well, I think they're obvious. Do I need to explain the reasoning for that to you?
Only if you want to. I think people who've been listening to this show long enough will know.
Okay, keeping it very short, because I'm trans, if I show up looking female but with a decidedly male face, that, to me, it's the same level of embarrassment, maybe even humiliation, as being seen naked. It's just, no, I don't want that. Maybe no one else would care, but I would care. So, even though I'm getting hair and makeup, I requested a touch-up, so I get up hours early, and I do all of my routine to make myself look as presentable as possible. And James comes and picks me up at my hotel, and he's an absolute gentleman. He opens the door for me, just is very pleasant, very old-fashioned. And so we get there, and he takes me into the room where I'm going to be all made up. And there are these two shockingly beautiful women. And the one doing the hair, her name was Paulina. And she looked like a much smaller version of Claudia Black during her Farscape era, if that means anything to you.
I only caught like snippets of Farscape. I'm aware of the show, but
okay. So I mean, she was beautiful, and the makeup artist was beautiful in an entirely different way, because the hairstylist just seemed to have the sort of natural beauty and had the dark hair and dark clothes, but it's like it worked. Meanwhile, the makeup artist, has the glamorous makeup on, and so I am just like, oh my God. On the one hand, I'm in very safe hands. On the other hand, I'm about to be judged so harshly, and I am freaking out. And they come over, and I'm introduced, and they talk about it's very nice to meet me. And then the makeup artist gives me a compliment that will feed my soul for years to come. She said, "Wow, your makeup is already so good. I don't think that there's much I need to do." Oh, okay, let me explain why that's such a big deal to me. Because, I've had to learn this on my own and at a much accelerated rate than women do as they grow up. And I've always thought, I don't know what I'm doing, and it's just kind of, this'll do. And so when any woman tells me that I look good and I'm doing a good job, that feeds my soul. When a professional makeup artist tells me I did a good job, that's just, you might as well have given me an Oscar. It was phenomenal.
And also, let's be honest, most people will not want to comment too much on your makeup. I mean, you don't want to comment on anybody's makeup as a general rule, because the ideal makeup should be as unnoticeable as possible, and and to say that your makeup looks really, really good can have some implications. And then furthermore, the fact that you are trans adds an extra level of complexity to that. So yeah, and that, and also yet you did not have the experience of that. That my, well, no, I was about to say that my wife and my daughter, but my wife doesn't wear makeup, so my daughter just puts stuff on her face, and it's mostly horrendous. But she's learning as well. But no, I get that to it. That is all said to qualify that I get that, but I really don't. I don't have claim to get that. Is as somebody who is frequently reading bartending books and all that, and I see, this looks interesting, and I throw something together, and maybe I adjust it to my taste and all that, and I go, okay, this is a good cocktail. This is a good Sazerac. I drank probably a dozen Sazeracs before I went to a high-end bar and ordered the first Sazerac to be prepared for me. And when it arrived, I'm looking at it going, all right, is this going to taste even remotely like the drink that I have made? And I tried it and I went, oh, yeah, no, this is the drink that I made. And of course I'll go, I like mine better because of course I'm adjusting it for my particular taste.
Mm-hmm.
But I also will have to say that, Erin, you've had quite a bit of practice. And so
thank you.
Obviously you would be considerably better than yours truly.
So I get in the chair and they're fussing over me in just the best way possible. And it feels very comforting and reassuring. And I tell the makeup artist, because she's basically going, you look great, so I'm not really sure what you want me to do. And so I mention, okay, well, I've got the scar on my face that I'm really, really self-aware of. Please cover that if you can. And I'm terrible at doing eyeliner, because a combination of I've got glasses, so I got to take the glasses off to get in there. That's awkward. And I can't do the whole... I've got something close to my eye. I can't get it to work. And she says, okay, that's no problem. And so she does all the stuff and just basically polishes everything. And it's just, hey, do you want some false eyelashes? I think that they're really fun and you look really cute in them. And it's like, okay, sure. And when we're done, remember, I was told to show up an hour and a half early. They're done in an hour. Because apparently I'd done such a good job that I shaved 30 minutes off the time. And they were really happy with the product. I was really happy with how I looked. I took a picture of it. I've shared it on social media. I'll make sure that it's in the show notes. And it was just, oh, wow. I feel really cute. And so the interview itself, really, the studio was pretty basic. It was two sort of director's chairs, and there were green screens to either side of us, and a couple of digital cameras, one on my face, one on his face, and a whole bunch of lights. And they sat down and they did an audio check, and they had me hold up the card with all the different color hues on it so they could do matching. And then we just sat down and started talking, and it wasn't really an interview. It was really more of a conversation. One of the things that I had asked prior to this, because I was still nervous, and I said something along the lines of, hey, could you give me an idea of the questions you're going to be asking during the interview? Because if you're asking me, to defend my Second Amendment position, if there's going to be lots of facts, I have access to a lot of this information, but it's difficult for me to keep it all in my head. And so, if I have to bring up a stat about defensive gun use, it may take me a minute. And, they've only got me in there for about an hour or so. And I didn't want to waste time going, I don't know, let me think about it, pulling out a phone. And so, I figured if I knew the questions that would be asked, I could be prepared. And also, it would be yet another double check, just in case there were some gotchas in there. And his response was, no, we don't really have any scripted questions. It'll just be an organic conversation, like if we met at a coffee shop. And, I'm just curious about how Blazing Sword formed and Pink Pistols. And, I want to know about you. And so that also made me feel really good. And that was really what the questions were. To use a line that I've used before, if you are a fan of the Erin Paulette classics, then you will be a fan of this interview, because I really wasn't asked anything different. To be honest, I felt like there were a lot of some of my really good lines that I didn't get to say because we were on a strict time schedule, because there are always points that I like to make and I didn't get to make them. But that is the nature of being interviewed. You're interviewed for an hour, and I think if I'm lucky, there will be about 15 minutes of footage in this. So I did okay, which probably, Weird Beard hears as I knocked it out of the park. There were a couple of things where when I'm headed back to the hotel, I'm going, oh, I could have done this better. Oh, I should have addressed that point instead of the other one. I could have made this more clear. But it's not like I was nervous and stammering. It was just, oh, dang it, hindsight. I should have done this other thing.
And if they're doing the long form to short form editing, because, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and you do the thing of whenever you're on an interview, you record the whole thing. So I've listened to hour-long interviews that you've given that got turned to like 2 minutes in a 5-minute news clip. And so I think you've got very little to worry about.
Yeah. Okay. Logically, I agree with you, but emotional worrywart Erin is still going to chew on this for a while because that's who I am. So wrapping this up, there are 2 questions that people usually ask me because my friends asked me about this after the interview. And one of the questions was, well, who else is going to be in this documentary? And, well, I know Chris Chang is because, well, actually, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he's in it because he's the one who introduced me. And it sure sounded like he had been part of it. But I was the second to last person to be interviewed. And James let slip who his final guest was. And when I mentioned this name to my friend Brandon, he gasped and said, Erin, you're in rarefied company. The final guest of this documentary is Dr. John Lott.
Ooh.
Yes.
Like that's a good, I mean, first up, a huge fan of Dr. Lott. He's a great guy. He's, he does wonderful work, but also like he is the heavy hitter. He's the guy that is, he's not there for the cult of personality or the charisma that many of the great people bring in. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm just saying like when Colion Noir walks into a room, like all the heads turn, and he's just got this great charisma. He's also wonderful. I mean, he's doing Weer'd audio fisks on his YouTube channel, and he's doing just as good a job as I am. Hurrah, hurrah! I'm a huge fan. He's a great guy, and so I'm not talking down on it. But like John Lott is just no, we're just the facts, ma'am. To quote Dragnet.
So the other question that I'm frequently asked is, when will this be released? I don't have a hard date. However, James told me that they are aiming to release it in March.
Wow.
This March. The only thing I can really say is that apparently, and this makes sense, documentaries take a whole lot less post-production than, TV shows and movies. So that's probably why. That's really all I know. It's just sometime in March. But when it's released, I will certainly let you know. I asked him if I could get a sneak preview. He wasn't sure if he could in terms of technical and legal, but he didn't have any problem, morally with letting me see it ahead of time. So, as soon as I know anything, I will let you, our listeners, know. And I really, it's not that I'm afraid it'll be bad. It's just I've got that base trepidation of, we'll see. But, okay, I'm going to be Weer'd. Hi, I'm Weer'd. Don't listen to Erin. It'll be wicked awesome.
It will be wicked awesome. It'll be friggin' sweet.
So that's what I was doing in Utah. Thank you for your patience in letting me goob out about it.
No, this is super exciting. I've been hearing snippets on it, and like I said, when we came on before, it's one of those. I'm just like, "How you doing, Erin?" Just getting a feel on how you're feeling and all that. You're like, "I'm super tired," and I'm like, "Don't want to hear anything about it. Tell it to me once we start the show." Because I wanted to hear all of it. I mean, I knew it went well because I did not hear. It was a very happy Erin flying back. And we gotta say, like, actually, have you heard back about your bag?
No, I haven't. So I flew back Delta, and I'm a member of Delta Sky Miles. And both planes that I was on, from Salt Lake City to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Daytona, they were all wired for Wi-Fi. And because I'm a SkyMiles member, I got free Wi-Fi for the duration of the flight, which was awesome. And it really made the trip pass quickly and comfortably. And so, I was chatting with the gang in the ACP Discord server. And so, yeah, when I landed at Daytona, one of my bags came off and the corner had a big old crack in it. Like, I don't know, 4 inches long. And I took a picture of it and it's like, well, I guess it's time to buy another piece of luggage, dang it. And Weer'd, you said, no, you take that to baggage claim and you file a damage report. And that's one of those things that made me feel really dumb because it never occurred to me that I could do that. I just assumed that damaged luggage was just sort of price of doing business. Hey, you fly on an airline. Sometimes your luggage gets lost or destroyed and life sucks. But you told me to do that. And okay, yeah, there was a woman working right there and I brought it over and it's like, hey, my luggage is damaged. And she was very professionally sympathetic and it was like, oh, wow, yeah, come on in. And so she was asking me questions, how long ago I got it and how much I paid for it. And I'm like, oh, good God, I don't know. It was in the before times and it was a Christmas present. And so she said something like, $150. And I go, sounds good to me. Because while I'm not sure, it was probably that much or less. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, oh, and by the way, that was the price of a set. Because I had a big one, a small one, and a carry-on. And so, hey, if they want to pay that much, sure, I'll take it, and then I can upgrade to a really nice one that maybe won't get damaged. So I haven't heard back yet. I think today is like President's Day, so I don't think that they would be working.
Nope, I was just wondering. It did sound promising. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, we knew specifically because on our last trip, and I don't remember if I mentioned it for the show, but we generally fly JetBlue. You fly Delta because you're in the Orlando area. That is their home airport. We fly JetBlue very frequently because the home airport of JetBlue is Logan Airport in Boston, and but yeah, we came back from a flight and in this specific, I love JetBlue. They remind me of how it used to be when I was a kid flying on back when airplanes really used to take care of you and things give you food and stuff like that. They still don't do the in-flight meals. Nobody does that anymore unless you're flying international. But yeah, they take good care of you and the planes are really comfortable. But we had a medical diversion. We were flying from North Carolina back to Boston, and we had a medical diversion to JFK, of which somebody had some sort of medical issue, and they had to be taken off and taken to the hospital, and all that. And they've hopefully they're all okay. But my daughter was like out of her mind that we're going to New York City. And the fact that, I was pointing out all the different skyscrapers and we could see a little green stick off in the distance. That's the Statue of Liberty. And then when we got back to Boston, our bag had a little bit bigger crack than yours, but is also a little bit bigger bag than yours. And so we took it into them, and JetBlue went, oh, well, yep, there it is. Hold on a second. I don't think we've got one in purple like that one, but let's see. And they brought out a black bag that was nearly identical to the one that we had. She says, how's this one look? And we're like, yeah, that's fine. They said, okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just move your stuff into this bag and I'll take care of that one. So like they gave us another bag that we agreed to. Like we left with a fully intact bag, and they disposed of the other one because our town has limited garbage service, so it would have probably cost me $20 to have the garbage company haul that bag off. And then they gave us money on top of that for both damaging our bag and for the fact that we had a flight diversion for a medical reason, which is there's no reason for that. Like you had to save someone's life. I'm willing to be an hour late. But yeah, it was wonderful. But and to add on to that, the little retractable handle on that bag had gotten jammed, and we had managed to like stuff it back down, and I was muscling that bag around through that, and I was saying, yeah, when we get home, this thing's going in the trash, and we're getting a new one. And then JetBlue just got us a new one for us. So yeah, hopefully that will work out. But sometimes things work out in your favor like that.
One sort of postscript to this, I got along so well with those ladies, and they treated me so nicely. And when I gave them my card, I said, can I have your contact information? Would it be okay if I, emailed you and asked you for tips, tricks, and advice? And they said, yeah, absolutely, sure. And they gave me their cards. So I have their email addresses. And in fact, the hairstylist, I haven't been pestering her, but I've asked her about 3 questions, and she's been like super helpful. So yay, I have a source of professionals I can ask, hey, should I do this? Would this be good for me? So, yeah, just a really great experience. I went in there, terrified's not the right word, but, well, I think I've said this before, but what I do is I end up front-loading my anxiety because, I imagine all the bad things that are going to happen, and then when I get out there, as long as I'm not, like, on fire, things are going to be so much easier than I imagined. And then I can just relax. And so that's what I did. And they were telling me, oh, no, you'll be fine. And so it was a great experience, asterisk. And that asterisk is there simply because of my sort of nagging fear that I will look terrible. Not like appearance-wise, but, have given a bad interview. Shut up, Erin, you were fine. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No. I totally do the front load and the anxiety. I won't lie. I'm super anxious about our trip to Texas. I know it's all going to be fine. It's all the irrational side of me. Well, what if we get there? We can't find the hotel room, and we can't get to the place, and we don't have enough time, and we get lost in the desert. We get shot by a tank.
I mean, that's funny to hear, considering how you are just so relentlessly Pollyanna optimistic.
Well, that's because you see me once I get there. Once I get there, I'm going to be totally fine. But no, that's
okay.
The only thing I'm going to get is right now is my eyes open up in the morning, and then my brain immediately starts thinking about the trip to Texas and what I need to do for the day. And it's one of those, okay, no more sleep for today. And sometimes those times that my eyes open are 0 ungodly. So, but I took a nap today. Hooray!
Well, good for you.
It's good. My daughter's in Maine, so naps are a thing that happen.
Oh, good. So, yeah, I feel like I've been talking for close to an hour now, and I want to rest my voice, and you can talk about other main topic things, and I can just sort of weigh in with grunts or whatever.
Yes. So this next story is on the Illinois gun ban case and the Supreme Court challenges that are going on for it. And it seems like every 5 minutes I look at the news, there's another like chapter in this. And so this may not be the most current Supreme Court story for Illinois, but I just liked this aspect of it. And of course, the title is Federal Judge in Illinois Gun Ban Case Orders State to Show Each and Every Item Banned. And here's the money quote that I wanted to say is because the ban is so all-encompassing and uses great many vague terms, and I'm not even sure exactly what is banned, and that's probably why Judge McGlynn ordered the state to do that, so that we could find out exactly what we are arguing about. And that is like absolutely just like gun control laws in the ultimate. He's probably right in the fact that, like, I bet you the people that wrote this don't even know exactly what the terms they are mean. Somebody told them that that's good enough, but the person that told them is not a super duper gun person, because super duper gun people are like, screw you, do it yourself. And so, yeah, I like that idea. There's actually right now there's a quote unquote gun law listening tour going on in Massachusetts. The last one that I saw was in Cape Cod, and I'm like, I don't have the time to drive down to Cape Cod to sit on this. So when one gets a little closer to my neck of the woods, I may see if I can if I can sneak away and get to it and do a little live coverage of it and see what it's all about. But essentially, the head of the goal, the Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts, said, yeah, no, I want to go through and discuss that. I want them to justify every single law that they do, because Massachusetts is one of the more dangerous states in New England, and it is the most gun restrictive one. So it's one of those, like, clearly if New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont are all considerably safer than Massachusetts, it's not the gun laws. So yeah, that's just one of the big factors of gun control that I think just goes away, is these people are doing things to quote unquote help and make things better, but it's one of those like, but they don't do anything. And Erin, if you wouldn't mind me doing a segue for it, so I can allow you to continue to rest your voice, and you can
please go right ahead,
chime in wherever you need. Is speaking of doing things that they think are helping, but are doing literally nothing, is the title of this one: Firing Pins and Warning Labels, How Louisville Plans to Skirt Kentucky's Gun Auction Law. And this is, so Louisville, Kentucky has clearly an insane anti-gun mayor, and I guess there's a law in Kentucky that says that guns that are confiscated by the police and can't be returned to their owners because they were confiscated for criminal reasons are auctioned off, which is the absolute smart way to do it, because these are guns. If you want if you want a gun, if you need a gun, you can pick a Glock 19 up for cheap, and you can get it from the police auction. And it means that the police also get some money from you. It's a win-win situation for everybody. And he is of the anti-gun deodand cult that says that, oh no, if this gun was used in a murder, this gun is somehow tainted with evil, and therefore the only appropriate thing is to destroy it, which makes no sense to me, because it's just a gun. And, no, I mean, if it was recognizable to the family and all that, I could totally see why there might be some sensitivity to that. But if you're just picking up a Glock 19 or a Smith & Wesson or a shotgun or something that was seized, and heck, probably a lot of these are seized by people that have otherwise committed crimes and can't legally own firearms, or had them confiscated for some other reason. Everything is not necessarily something killed. But so he is saying, oh, what we're going to do is I'm going to have the police remove the firing pins of the guns before they are sold. The firing pins are sold with them, but they're just, the firing pin is out. And they're going to come with a warning label. And it's this bright yellow label, which they spent way too much time and money designing this thing, that says, warning, deadly weapons like this one caused 146 homicides by gunshot wound in Louisville in 2022. 14 of those deaths were children. And then there's a row of bullets down at the bottom of this warning label. It is so obnoxious. And it is
14 of them.
Yes, 14 of them.
Well, I mean, I wanted to point out that the 14 bullets at the bottom were representing the deaths of children, because I count those things.
Oh God, I did not, and I'm even more. That's even more obnoxious. And again, 14 deaths in children. I wonder how many car accidents killed children. And if those cars were those cars also sent to car auctions? It's just, and we don't need common sense car control. So this is just more of just the anti-gun voodoo. And again, what I used to always say on my blog when I was more regular is guns are different because guns are different. Just there are so many anti-gunners that want to treat guns different than any other object in the world, really because they want to ban guns. And this is no different. And
the thing that jumps out to me is the warning label, not so much in design, but in intent, very strongly reminds me of the Surgeon General's warning that was, and I presume still is, on cigarettes.
It is.
And I don't know of a single person who was like, I'm going to get some cigarettes. What the heck? These can cause cancer. No, I'm not going to buy them. People who buy cigarettes know perfectly well that even if they don't believe that there's a link between smoking cigarettes and cancer, they know perfectly well that the Surgeon General says, no, you shouldn't be doing this. And I think this warning label is going to have the exact same effect. Someone who buys a gun is going to go, okay, and?
Yeah.
It's not going to stop them, is what I'm saying.
I mean, even better is when I was in Dublin, they had the European warning labels are far more aggressive than the North American ones. And in Dublin, they had the literal photographs of a dissected cancerous lung. And things like people smoking cigarettes out of trach tubes and stuff. And the reason why I know all of this was because when I was in Ireland, I would see them on the sidewalk because everybody in Ireland smokes like a chimney. I mean, it's far more smoking in Ireland than the United States. And so there's just at all times there were people out on the sidewalk smoking butts and tossing the boxes either in the trash cans or just on the sidewalks. And they had these just graphic, horrible, gory, this would get you a channel strike on YouTube if you showed this. And yet there they are smoking their cigarettes. They don't care. They don't care. Nobody cares. It is dumb. It is, as Chance from Say Uncle always just say, gun control is what you do instead of something. But it makes him feel better, I guess.
Yeah, the thing that gets me, well, I don't know. Maybe he assumes that removing the firing pin will somehow stymie the gun owner. I mean, when I first read it, I thought he was just having them sold without the firing pin, which would be annoying because you got to go buy one. But no, they're selling it with it. It's just you just have to install it. And it's a pain in the butt, but unless you're a complete novice, you can probably do it. And if you can't, just take it to a gun store. It's like, here, install this for me, please.
Chances are the people that are buying them from the auction are probably gun stores buying them in lots, and they're just again. They'll just,
there you go. And so it's, I don't know what he thinks he's accomplishing. I mean, this is the equivalent pettiness of, when the police officer returns your gun, the magazine has been completely emptied and he hands you a handful of bullets. Mm-hmm. It's just like, jerk move, but easily fixed.
Yeah. Well, what he is doing is this is a PR stunt for him hoping to change the state law that says that the guns have to be sold off and not destroyed. And again, like I said, the reason why they're not destroying them is because at best what you can get for destroying the gun is scrap metal. And I don't even know how easy it is to scrap a gun, given that there are so many different types of metals in guns and most of them have polymer and things like that. So reducing a gun to scrap is going to be far more, you may not even get scrap value for it. And
I mean, I get that he's trying to circumvent the gun destruction prohibition, but how is this the step? is what I'm trying to find logic in madness. Basically, is why I'm choking on this.
He's getting news coverage because he's saying this is the state law, and I assume he's pushing.
He's outrage farming.
Yeah, he is also this is one of those awareness campaigns we see so often with like the ice bucket challenge for ALS. Oh, we're raising awareness for ALS, and I'm like, I think we all know what ALS is. Like, let's raise money. Let's do research. Let's find a cure for this horrible disease. Let's not just get people aware of it. But there is some things that do need awareness campaigns. I frequently talk about, whenever awareness campaigns, I talk about opioid hyperalgesia. If you don't know what it is,
I don't. Weird. What is it?
That is, if you start using opioids in a chronic level, they actually start forming inflammation in the body, and so therefore you start experiencing pain because of the opioids, and this can lead people into a downward spiral where they are taking opioids to alleviate a chronic pain, and the opioids themselves are causing a chronic pain that they feel might be the breakthrough of the chronic pain, because opioids, you also develop a tolerance for them. It's not a drug you should be taking for chronic pain. If you've got something that's not going to be better in a couple of weeks, you need to take something different. But either way, that is one of those things that a lot of people are not aware of. And again, if you are someone that has a torn rotator cuff and you are taking oxycodone or Vicodin for it, and you realize that, now, you started taking one and all the pain went away. Now you're taking two and it's starting to get the pain away. And now it's 2 months later and you're in constant pain, even though you're taking a whole bunch of those. Going cold turkey might actually make the pain go away, not the other way around, because so many people are terrified that they go cold turkey off of the stuff, and the pain for the injury that got them addicted in the first place is going to suddenly become debilitating.
Well, you were right. I had never heard of that. Thank you.
Yeah, that is what an awareness campaign is for, and in this case, there may be many people. I was actually unaware that Kentucky had a law that mandated that confiscated firearms be auctioned off instead of destroyed. And so because of that, he is hoping to get awareness so that potentially a law will be sent that will repeal this. A bill will repeal this law, and or some other such legal action, so that his hands are not tied, that he has to do this temper tantrum.
Okay.
But also, you should raise awareness. Hey, guess what? If your state doesn't have a law that mandates that police sell it off, hey, guess what? Cops need money. And guess what? Paying taxes sucks. So you know what? If they have valuable property, why don't you let them retain the value of that property rather than force them to make it into stupid manhole covers or art? Ugh. People who make art out of confiscated firearms are just, there's not a single one of them that doesn't look like a car accident.
Tell me how you feel, Weer'd.
Or how about I tell you about the last story on our list? And
I mean, if we must, I know we do, but
I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I almost didn't include it, but let's be honest, this is one of those things that we kind of have to discuss.
Yeah, we do.
Is there was a school shooting. It was three were killed, and the shooter, so four dead total.
Yeah, but he doesn't count.
But he does not count. No. So this is not this under the FBI standard does not count as a mass shooting. But of course, under the Bloomberg Mother Jones thing, I mean, there was a mass shooting in my house today because
what?
Why not? I'm just saying that like anything can be a mass shooting as far as Bloomberg is concerned. I've been at home all day too. I haven't even opened my gun safe.
I thought you were going to make a reference to your bug assault or something.
No, it's wintertime. There's no bugs, but that is a fun thing.
Okay, weird. See, you say that as if it's self-evident. I live in Florida. There are bugs.
Oh, I understand that there are bugs. They're palmetto bugs. You need more than a bug assault. That's Mossberg territory. But yeah, there was a shooting in Michigan State University, and 5 others were wounded. Ended up being the shooter. Ended up killing themselves. It was the campus is a gun-free zone. It was originally reported that he used an AR-15, but no, it was a pistol. Looks like a Taurus pistol and a high point. Oh, very classy. Hey, big spender. And but the issue was that, again, the shooter was known to law enforcement. Though in this case, it's not really as strong as many of the others. This person did not have, people still don't even know exactly why. He was not a student there. We don't know why this person went there to do this, or if they were, there's no motive known yet to date. But this person was stopped in a traffic stop, and it was discovered that they were carrying a firearm, and they did not have a carry permit, and therefore that was illegal carry. I will note that is absolutely a BS offense, and that we should all be constitutional carry. But that was a felony gun charge. It was plead down to a misdemeanor. And so therefore this person could legally have bought the guns that they did. And I believe they did buy them legally at a gun shop. So that's all I really have to say about that. But it's just another data point in the cycle of these gun-free zone shootings.
So on the subject of gun laws, the lovely Liberty from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns is here to tell us the story of her testimony against Nebraska's red flag law.
Hey, it's Liberty from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, and I'm just going to talk about my first time getting involved in the legislative process. So, first off, I'm getting over a cold, and I'm hoping it's almost done. At any rate, so recently in my state they put forth 2 bills, a constitutional carry bill and a red flag law disguised as your friendly neighborhood suicide risk protection bill. Yeah, having very strong opinions on both of these bills, I got dolled up in a cute little dress and drove out to my state capital to pop in my 2 cents. That's please and thank you for the constitutional carry bill, and put that thing back where it came from, or so help me to the red flag law. Essentially, I didn't actually say that, but you get the idea. First up was the constitutional carry. Now here's the thing. I'm casually experienced in public speaking, and I absolutely love it. My first mistake was thinking that testifying in regards to a bill was going to be essentially like public speaking, and it's not. It's absolutely not. It's a lot more like sitting before a council of docile dragons, and while you know they're not actually going to eat you, that doesn't mean they still aren't intimidating. I'm used to walking around when I talk, and waving my arms in grand dramatic gestures. Maybe crack a joke or two. But now I was sitting in this chair that made me feel tiny. I felt like a mouse, and with the aforementioned dragon visual, I was just happy if my words came out coherently and my paper didn't shake. And oh, by the way, I had to pay attention to the signal light so I didn't go over time. All the while, I'm telling myself to breathe. It was exhausting. I was so grateful for the senator who gestured for me to finish my story when I ran out of time. All in all, it was a fantastic experience, but I absolutely felt like a glob of jello when I walked out of that room. Which brings me to the fact that I got to meet some phenomenal people by going to testify. Everyone was super supportive and encouraging, and it absolutely meant the world to me in that moment. I'm actually terrified of being in new places alone. Come to think of it, and it's weird considering all the times that I've done it. But in all the times I've gone to any new big places by myself, I've always been, on some level, petrified. And that day was no different, but getting connected to the other people who came to testify made it so much easier. I was a lot more comfortable going to testify the second time around for the proposed red flag law. Now that I've been there and I've gone through the process, and this time Matt and I went together, so I wasn't alone. Preparing for this hearing was actually harder because aspects of this proposed bill hit a lot closer to home. I'm not best friends with my ex, which, of course, isn't in itself unusual, but we're still in the situation of contact out of parental obligation. Basically, hey, I want to talk about what you put me through, but I don't want to make you look bad while doing it if I can avoid it because we're still in contact and I don't want to tick you off and make people around you hate you, kind of thing going. Toxic and abusive relationships don't start out that way. Not to the people in them, anyway. My relationship with my ex, we'll just call him Earl, started out as a friendship. We were a couple of socially isolated geeks with a passive interest in Jewish culture. I told him I always dreamed of having 8 kids, and he thought that was fine. Well, fast forward 8 years, and we're married, 4 kids in, and he's going on a tirade about how the only way to get respect is through violence. He punched a hole in the wall, tried to physically intimidate me. Good luck with that. I was raised by an ex-cop. Ripped out a baby gate, and he tried to Hulk the couch, like he was trying to, lift it. We didn't have guns. We couldn't afford them. But looking back, I absolutely would not have welcomed a red flag law in that situation. And if anyone were to ask why, the short answer is just, I wouldn't have wanted him to be able to use it on me. Thank you very much. Now, some of you might be asking what the cops thought after that whole ordeal. Here's the thing. I didn't call them till the next day. I didn't think they could do anything because he hadn't actually hit me. And this was the first time he had flown off the handle that far. I still thought I might be making a big issue out of a man who was just having a hard time. But I had solid proof that there was an issue with him this time, both in the giant 9-inch-ish hole in the wall and the 6-minute recording of his antics. I finally talked myself into talking to one cop. Basically, hey, I figure you guys might prefer to talk to someone before things get bad, so here's what happened, and what do you recommend I do about it? I was kicking myself after I talked to the cops. Number 1, for patching that stupid hole before they could see it, and number 2, for not calling them right when it happened. Actually, maybe I should switch those 2 around, but whatever. But it turned out that he could have maybe gone to jail. Oh, I would have jumped at the piece of him being gone for a couple of days at that point. And in the aftermath, his gun rights would have been in jeopardy, if not outright terminated. I'm not quite sure on that. But after that, he wasn't as physically hostile, but the talk of wanting to die jumped up in frequency. Finally, he must have decided that since I wasn't swaying my behavior to do what he wanted, he said that I should shoot our son, since I didn't respect men. The only reason I didn't jump up and pummel him right in that moment was I had no intention of going to jail for his stupidity. The cops were called for that one, but all they did was call CPS, and I didn't find out about that until the next afternoon, when they showed up at my door. She was a lovely woman, and I told her that I already had a plan in place, and whatever happened, me and my children were not spending another night in the same house as him, and we never did. But boy, did I wish I had a gun for a while, because for the longest time, I lay awake at night wondering if he would snap. He never did. He seems to be fine now, but like I said, we're not friends. Back to the hearing for the red flag law. Sitting down to testify this time was much less intimidating. While I still felt a little bit maybe like a mouse, the senators were no longer these colossal, ominous dragons. Now I was just trying to delicately present my past history and how it connected with my opposition to the red flag law, as though I were trying to carry TNT through a hallway of lasers that might have set it off. Should I have been so ginger about sharing my past? Maybe, maybe not, that's debatable, and the answers will probably become clearer and easier with time. For now, what I can say is that I tried, and I looked pretty darn cute while doing it. Thanks for letting me come and chatter on Weer'd. You got some pretty awesome listeners. Hope you all have a good one.
Erin, you talked about when you were in Utah looking so cute, and Liberty mentioned it, and so I have I found the live stream of the hearing, and if you scroll into 27 minutes, you will see Liberty, and she indeed was looking cute.
Oh, wow, she is cute. Look at that. Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic color on her, too. Liberty Honey Burgundy is your color.
It really is. And I say I gotta thank her both for telling her story to the people of Nebraska, but also to the listeners of ACP. Like I bringing that stuff up is gonna be reliving the trauma a little bit, and so it's not easy. And I just want to say that I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And again, I gotta get up on my soapbox. I say it every time, just like when I mentioned we're gonna talk about raising awareness. Well, there's some things that we need awareness for, other things that we don't. And then whenever brings up red flag laws, they are the worst. I am always opposed to them because they talk about it being a mental health response, except for there is no stipulation in any red flag or ERPO law that I know of that has a stipulation for mental health evaluation or treatment. So if somebody is suicidal or somebody is dangerous, all it does is take the guns away. It doesn't get them help. It doesn't get them evaluated. It doesn't do anything. It just gets their guns away, taken away. And at best, when they come to get them back, maybe there will be some evaluation. But if they don't go back to get their guns and instead they go to kill themselves or harm other people, either without the guns or with additional guns that weren't stolen, because there's not really any way for the police to know where all the guns are. So there might be one hidden or set away or one that nobody knew about. It's a terrible law, and I am with Liberty in opposition to it.
Also, Liberty, I know that you are self-conscious about your voice. Not gonna lie, I hate how much I love it. You sound fantastic, and honestly, I'm like insanely jealous of how poised you were just talking into the recording here. I'm glad you're in Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, because if you were free, I would feel threatened that you would take my place. So you look amazing, you sound amazing. Stay in your lane.
She does have an excellent radio voice.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah, even with this one, I'm listening to the thing. I'm like, oh, okay, I hear the scratchiness in the throat. You're feeling a little under the weather, but yeah, no, even then, it's better than most.
I mean, yeah, it was a little scratchy, but it worked for me. It's just that little bit of a vocal fry, like some of the smoky voiced, blues singers have. It's like, no, it's working for me.
Yeah, no, it works. And another awareness thing to bring in is that she talks about being in an abusive relationship, and I have we both know many a person who has been in abusive relationships, and how difficult it is, both in the emotional side to it, because you're in a relationship with that person. That is someone that you have loved, maybe still do love, and yet they are harming you, or you are afraid of them. And there's the cycle of abuse where when you get close to leaving, suddenly they dial it back and suddenly they're nice again. And then there's all the legal and financial issues. If there's a marriage, if there's shared property, if you cohabitate, if there's children involved, like Liberty has, it makes it so much harder. And so it's so difficult to leave an abusive partner. And I'm so happy she did. And I urge anybody, if you're in an abusive relationship, if you're hearing the sound of my voice and I hear me say this, there's not a question, and get the power to leave, because you're worth it, and it's, God forbid, something awful happen. And in the same vein as safety, something we frequently say on the podcast, and I say to all my family and friends who carry, you absolutely need legal protection in the event you're in a justifiable self-defense event. And for myself, I choose the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, and I invited the ACLDN president, Marty Hayes, on the show to tell us all about the network. I am pleased to welcome to the Assorted Calibers podcast, Marty Hayes. Marty, you are with the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me on. I always like to spread the word about the network.
Or the word has already been spread quite a bit, because of course we urge everyone who carries a gun for self-defense to carry some form of coverage in the event that they get themselves into a legal situation. I'm a member of ACLDN, and Erin Paulette, my lovely co-host, is a member of USCCA. So yeah, so we give you guys a lot of love whenever it's relevant.
Well, with one phone call, she could correct that.
Absolutely, we will do our best. So you know what? Since you are the president of the ACLDN, why don't you tell the story of how this came about and what exactly this service is?
Okay, well, this came about out of my association with Masad Ayub. For the last 30 years, I've been teaching with him at the Firearms Academy of Seattle, a business which I owned. And, I always found that his legal teachings were the greatest there were. And eventually, I ended up getting into expert witness work. And that basically from Masad's example. After doing expert witness work in firearms cases, and becoming more and more involved with Mass and what he does, I decided that my students here at the Firearms Academy of Seattle could use a local resource in the event that they were involved in a self-defense incident. So I decided, why don't I go to law school? I'm not doing anything really major, so I took on law school, got my degree in 4 years. But during those 4 years, instead of looking to become an attorney, I thought, well, why don't I try this idea? How about an association of armed citizens, where each armed citizen would put a little money into the pot, and eventually there'd be enough money to defend people who were involved in legitimate acts of self-defense. And so that's what we did. We came up with the idea in 2007, and we officially formed the company in January of 2008, and now we're here 14 years later.
That's awesome. And now, of course, people will frequently, and I'm guilty of this as well, will frequently refer to your service as concealed carry insurance, but that's not a correct term, is it?
No. When I decided to start this network, which is basically an association of armed citizens, I specifically did not want any insurance component involved in what we do. I'm an old guy. I'm 68 years old now, and I've dealt with insurance companies my whole life. And what I know is that if there's an insurance company involved, they own you as far as whatever the legal situation is. In other words, if you're a member of one of these other associations that have an insurance underwriter, then when it really comes down to it, that insurance underwriter controls the legal issue, the court case, whether or not you're going to take a plea, whether or not they're going to indemnify you for any expenses. They're the ones in control, not you. And I did not want to be that type of situation. So we came up with the idea that we would not touch insurance. We wouldn't have anything to do with insurance. We wouldn't go out and find underwriters to cover our legal bills if we had to. And so that's why we're not insurance. The member controls his or her own destiny.
Well, that's excellent. And so what if you were to go to ACLDN and get a membership, what could you expect from that?
Well, the first thing you'll do is receive an educational package. These days it comes on a thumb drive. It used to be a set of CDs or DVDs, I guess they are, and a book. You'll get the book, which is Masad Ayub's recent Deadly Force book, and a thumb drive, which you plug into your computer, and there are 8 or 9, I don't remember now how many lectures there are on self-defense law and different nuances of it. And that basically is your educational package. We want people to watch that, study it, take notes, archive the notes on your computer. We want to be able to show that you knew the material on the videos before your act of self-defense, not after. And so that's very important. That, I think, is basically what keeps our members from being involved in self-defense incidents. We've got 20,000 members now, and we have yet to have to go to court for anybody. Members simply are not being involved. We've had a couple people involved in shootings. It was stopped at the initial stages because the prosecutor looked at it and said this is an act of self-defense, or in one case, defense of others. And so, but that's the big thing, is the educational package. And then also, we now have put together an emergency fund, a legal defense fund, which is closing in on $4 million, believe it or not, which have all been funded by member dues. And we will use that money to get you legal representation as quickly as you need it. And that's assuming that it was a legitimate act of self-defense.
Well, that's excellent. So in the event that you are a member and there's an incident, maybe you're taken into police custody, what does the member do?
Well, the member, hopefully the member has an attorney that they can call. If they don't have an attorney they can call, then they call the emergency phone number on the membership card in their wallet, and my cell phone rings. And I will answer it 24/7, 365. Sometimes I don't get to it if I'm in sleep, but I'll call right back. And we'll go from there, trying to figure out what you need at the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And of course, also part of this listing, you will get listings of lawyers that are in your area that are on the network that you can contact.
Right. Yeah, we've got several hundred lawyers throughout the country, and we're always adding more. The idea is that you can contact one of these attorneys directly. That way you get legal representation. An incident comes to mind where one of our people was involved in a shooting in Colorado. They were arrested or detained, I guess, and I got a phone call from the holding cell of the guy, and within a half an hour we had an attorney lined up in his area, and he went down and met him at the jail and had the legal representation. And so that's why you're going to want to call me, so I can go to work on helping get you legal representation.
And the legal defense fund also covers bond as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, we would, depending on the situation. The idea of bond is kind of a misunderstood concept. My bond is set at $1 million, and I want a company that will pay out the 10%, $100,000, to get me out of jail. Well, that's all well and good, assuming that you have another $900,000 in collateral to put up to the bail bondsman, so he or she can be assured that you will in fact come to court. And so this idea that we're gonna be able to bail you out, hopefully we can. Hopefully the bail would not be exorbitant to the point where you would not have the collateral or couldn't get the collateral from your parents or brothers or sisters or whatever to put up to give to the bail bondsman in the case you don't show up. But so yeah, we would handle or assist with bail, but that's depending on the circumstances. Mm-hmm. It's not instantaneous.
And of course, there are some services that this is only for defenses that involve the use of a firearm, and that's not the case with ACLDN.
No, it's a legitimate use of force, and we don't have to be able to prove on the phone that you acted in self-defense. What I need to know at the time is, were you in fear of grave bodily injury or death? What are some of the reasons why you were in fear? You weren't committing a felony while you were doing it. In other words, you weren't robbing a bank or some other nefarious crime. And so believing that you were acting in legitimate self-defense, then that's when we will basically start the legal process.
Well, that is excellent, and as I've said many times before on the podcast, I advise everybody that I know that has gotten that. Of course, also with this new gun rush that's started happening, we've gotten so many new members to the fold who are now owning and carrying firearms, and then I always let them know, hey, what do you got for service? And of course, I personally always recommend ACLDN. And we certainly see cases like George Zimmerman and Kyle Rittenhouse are two great examples of cases that were self-defense, but they were put through the ringer for political reasons. And I don't even know. Do we have any idea of how much those cases cost?
I think Rittenhouse was somewhere around $1 million. Zimmerman was more than that, but those prices are so nebulous, you know. You've got attorneys charging, $450 an hour to do whatever they're doing, and you just don't know. And so one of the reasons that we would be able to probably help out easier is that I'm going to be watching where the attorneys are spending the money too, and we're gonna be able to cut that down quite a bit, I think. But we're prepared to spend $1 million on a case if we have to.
Excellent. And actually, that reminds me, this is a point that I think you've made on several other podcasts that I've heard you on, with the point that if you go and look up a public defender or just go look up the attorney in your area that specializes in firearms law, these might be the guys that are bailing out the gangbangers and the other people that are getting caught with firearms charges, that they're looking for plea deals. And that's not the case with the ACLDN network, correct?
Correct. And we don't have attorneys in every location, but all of our attorneys get the same educational package as the members do. And so they've at least got a reasonable education as far as self-defense law. And so that's a good starting point. But here's the thing. If we get a case that is going to go to trial, if it looks like they're not going to back away and you're going to need to put on a murder defense, we'll choose one of the very highly skilled attorneys in our network and associate with them, and they can start working on it too. We're not just simply going to stick you with some attorney. In fact, the attorney that you use is always going to be your choice. One of our cases from years ago, the member was involved in an incident and he hired an attorney and we paid for it. And after the first legal go-round, which they eventually dropped the charges, he was arrested again and he did not want to use the same attorney. He wanted a new attorney, so we said, find a good attorney that you want, and we'll talk to him and get him paid for you.
Well, that's excellent. Again, this is a service that everybody should have. Even if whether you carry a gun or not carry a gun, it's quite affordable. And I have been a happy member for, gosh, I don't even remember how many years. It's got to be up close to a decade by now. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the show, Marty Hayes of the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network.
You're very welcome.
Weer'd, I don't know if you discussed it and it got cut for content or whatever, but do you know anything about the member who was arrested twice? Because that sounds like there's a story there.
There certainly does. I kind of felt like it wasn't my place to ask because it's one of those, this is a client confidence sort of thing. So I really didn't ask any question about that, and Marty didn't offer. So I don't know. Honestly speaking, for everybody that's had to have it paid out, there's a story there. I mean, another podcast to recommend is the Active Self-Protection podcast. It's not John Correa's not doesn't do that one, but it's I forget his name, but there's.
I have no idea. I can't help you.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
you got to drown.
But again, they talk about how the guests they have on the show is a lot of people will say, I don't know if mine counts. And there's lots and lots and lots of instances where no shots were fired. Things, just got a little bit scary and all that, but there's still a story to that. And what did you do? And, what happened and how it went through. I had an instance once at my house where it was some goofy Comcast salesperson. And it was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It was nighttime. I was like upstairs cutting my hair and like getting ready I was going to hop in the shower and then I was going to go to bed. And these people came onto my dark porch. All the lights were off. And because the lights were off, they couldn't see my doorbell. So they were pounding on my door. And so my wife's like, what is going on here? And I went and quickly threw a shirt on and a pair of pajama pants and grabbed my 1911 and went down the stairs to see what was going on. And I would have, I should have taken the Massa Yub advice on if someone's pounding on your door and all that, don't answer it. But I looked out through the window and it was a dark porch and one of the people there looked very much like my neighbor's kid. So I thought there was something that was going on. And so I just cracked the door and turned on the light and realized that no, they weren't. And then saw that they were from the cable company. And if you've ever worked with Comcast, then the words that I used to tell them to get off my property would seem very justified. And so,
Did you use potty words, Weer'd?
I think I used all of them. I gave them the full set. But even there was a lot of, statements of do you open the door? Do you come down and check? Do you let them see them? Should I just have hung out at a place where I could see the door, but they couldn't see me, and just see if they went away or if something else changed? There's all sorts of factors, even in an event where nothing went down. It was just a concern. So either way, I don't know about this person, but,
cause two things popped into my head. Either he got involved in 2 separate shooting incidences, which is unusual, or he had been arrested on one charge and then maybe his lawyer hadn't done a good job of dispelling all doubt or whatever, and then they arrested him on a subsequent charge related to it, and this guy was like, no, my first lawyer didn't do a very good job. If he had, I wouldn't be here. I want someone else. I mean, either one sounds interesting, although the first one is far more salacious.
Yeah. Or it could be one of those crazy stories there was a jewelry store owner. I want to say it was in New York City, but I believe it was in an anti-gun jurisdiction, but it was on their property. So they had this person carried a gun, and somebody came in and attempted to rob it, and they shot them, and the person was a gang member. And so the gang had a vendetta against this jewelry store owner and was going to get revenge for killing one of their members. And I think he ended up killing 2 or 3 more, because they started sending out hits on him. They would send people in to kill him in the jewelry store. And as they escalated, he escalated. So I don't know.
That sounds vaguely familiar. Was that within recent memory?
I don't know how it wasn't super recently, and I don't know.
Was it within the past 10 years?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you.
Oh,
I want to say no. I want to say it might have even been as far as the late 90s or early 2000s.
Okay.
But there have also been a couple of cases similar to that as well. Because I remember hearing back when Mass did a podcast, he was he was covering people, and he covered a guy who shot a robber, and then the criminal associates of that robber tried to get revenge on him, and he ended up shooting at least one more of them. So it does happen. But either way, no matter what kind, whether you're in a crazy gang vendetta or just pull a gun on the cable guy, the gun was behind the door the entire time. They did not know that I was armed. But there's all sorts of reasons why you could be charged with a crime, even if you hadn't committed one, and might need legal representation and might not have the money to cover these exorbitant expenses. And so it's a good reason to get a service like ACLDN. I want to say insurance, but it's not insurance. And of course, Erin, all you need to do is pick up the phone and you can change services.
I'm happy where I am. Thank you for the kind offer.
Yes. Yeah, Marty's a sweet guy. I just like the fact that he threw a little shade at you.
Yeah. All right.
USCCA is also a wonderful service. Marty, I can't badmouth them. I choose ACLDN, but you know what? One of my friends also is like, no, I'm USCCA. It's way better, and I'm like, yeah, it's good too. So those services are both wonderful, but Erin, you know what else is wonderful?
Well, I started to say our patrons, but then I know you're going to scold me because it's not just our patrons, but all of our listeners. But, part of that is because, you're a dad and you're not supposed to play favorites, but I absolutely do.
I mean, I do want to thank each and every one of our listeners. You're listening to this show, and I am grateful for that. But Erin is right. It is awful nice for you to support the show through Patreon. And, of course, you can go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers Podcast and sign up. And you're not just supporting us. We're not begging. We're not doing anything. You get stuff. You get the blooper reels. You get the film tracks. And you also get the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I don't want this to be a bit. Oh, though, speaking about Apple Podcasts, if you are all on Apple Podcasts, I just realized today there was a new Brady campaign podcast that just came out, the Red, Blue, and Brady podcast. If you might want, they only have 22 ratings, and every single one of them is 5-star and very fawning, which screams to me shenanigans. So if, in fact, you wanted to leave a tasteful and truthful review for them on iTunes as well, a little bit will go a very long way with that small number of reviews for them. And if you want more from me, I got a blog. It's weerdworld.com. That's weerdworld.com. And you can hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word.
And thank you to Nate Spencer for our music.
Weer'd wants me to say something amusing, but I'm too tired, so this is what you get. The quality of the banter is assorted, and so is our podcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night, and sleep well, Erin Paulette.